Now, to the Labour Party conference back here. They're first in government for 15 years, of course, and the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, did manage to smile at the start of her big speech. Then a heckler interrupted, and in the middle of it, the Nurses' Union said it was rejecting the government's latest pay offer. Political honeymoons are getting shorter, and this government may already be setting new records on that front. Ms Reeves did, though, confirm the rollout of free breakfast clubs in English schools. She also addressed the cuts in support for older people's heating bills. She's sticking with it, but not the row over donations for dresses. She was wearing hobs, by the way, which she paid for.
Wet and damp Labour members in Liverpool who've been warned for weeks by the Prime Minister and his Chancellor that the economic weather is only going to get worse. But first, she had cheery news for this lot.
I am so proud that our Women's Parliamentary Labour Party is bigger than the entire Conservative Parliamentary Party.
But not everyone in that election, and since, got what they want. A couple of protesters shouted, "Stop arming Israel, stop backing oil," and they weren't treated with kid gloves. But then she did her "I regret nothing" about taking away up to £300 from millions of pensioners.
It was made clear to me that failure to act swiftly could undermine the UK's fiscal position, with implications for public debt, mortgages and prices. And I made the choice to means test the winter fuel payment.
And a message for those who say she's been too gloomy, talking down the country.
My optimism for Britain burns brighter than ever. My ambition knows no limits. Growth is the challenge and investment is the solution.
And if we doubted that she'll ever splash the cash,
I am proud to stand here as the first Chancellor in 14 years to have delivered a meaningful real pay rise to millions of public sector workers.
but believe it or not, at that precise moment, nurses rejected their latest pay offer. As for specific new initiatives, just one, a pilot of breakfast clubs in schools, and Reeves also trailed the message the Prime Minister will deliver tomorrow.
Britain's best days lie ahead. A Britain trading, competing and leading in a changed world. A Britain founded on the talent and the effort of working people. That is the Britain we're building. That is the Britain I believe in. Together, let's go and build it.
Confident enough?
It's about fiscal responsibility, yes, and it's fiscal responsibility for a purpose.
In Liverpool St John's shopping centre, we asked whether they trust the Chancellor.
We just have to give them time. We can't just expect everything to change within a split of a second.
Everyone promises you everything, but never goes ahead, does it?
This business of taking money from the pensioners is an absolute disgrace.
Funnily enough, that's not what the Minister Ellie Reeves thinks, so sisters hug, and so do the political siblings.
Well, let's speak to Robert and Joel now. Joel, maybe let's come to you. Fiscal responsibility for a purpose. It's not the most catchy slogan any of us have ever heard, but hints that she may change her approach to borrowing. How big a deal? Well, maybe you better explain what that might be and what impact it might have.
Well, it was nuanced, Tom, but the signal was there. This is about the fiscal rules, which are the rules the government sets that effectively control what it can spend and what it can borrow. And Rachel Reeves made it very clear today that she's considering changing at least one of the fiscal rules in the Labour manifesto, specifically the one which pledges to get debt falling as a share of national income in 5 years' time, because what she wants to do is raise public investment. Now, over the last 40 years, public investment, think of it as the money government spends on building stuff, roads, railways, hospitals, schools, etc., has been very, very low by standards of other countries. That's been true with private investment too. And I think if you speak to economists, they will tell you we desperately need this to change. If we want higher economic growth, if we want better public services, if we want better standards of living, this needs to change. Now, the Institute for Fiscal Studies calculates that if the Chancellor moves from targeting debt to targeting a broader measure of the government's balance sheet, she could free up £50 billion a year for investment without the need to raise taxes, which sounds like a terrific idea, except it is loaded with risk, because this may look a lot like an election manifesto promise which has been broken, and depending on the level of borrowing, it has the potential to spook the markets.
Well, Robert, you're there right beside Joel. What did you make of it?
So it was very striking the way that she stressed time and again today that the main route that she seeks to generate growth is through encouraging much more investment. She wants more private sector investment. Now, there's a little bit of a problem there in the sense that she's also got to raise money by increasing taxes. Some of those taxes she's looking at would actually penalise investors. So when it comes to the taxation side, she's got to be very careful indeed. But talking to an assortment of ministers here, the thing that I've been most struck by is that I do think a big decision has been taken by Keir Starmer and his cabinet, which is that they are now going to free up, perhaps in the way that Joel says, a lot more money for public sector investment. One of the big challenges they face are a health service that's crumbling, too much money going on, for example, in the health service, sorting out people who are acutely ill. What they want to do is essentially stop people becoming acutely ill. That does require massive investment in IT and in buildings. And so I think what we will see in this very important budget on October the 30th is a shift to much more money going to investment that will then yield reform that should, over time, mean that we spend less on day-to-day spending.
OK, both of you, thank you very much indeed. Now, usually at a party conference, it isn't convincing the people in the hall that matters. To their speaker, their support is taken as read. This time, perhaps, it is different. Labour is not united over the planned cuts to winter fuel payments. Some of its famous faces told us today it hasn't been the best of starts. But still, it is early days.
The message Labour wants to portray at this conference is clear. But as its supporters gather for the first time since the election, do they feel the new government is delivering the change it promised?
It seems to me that they're being given a bit of a rough ride on certain things that the previous government didn't seem to be given a rough ride on. Rishi's £40 million helicopter contract seems to have been sort of forgotten about. We'll concentrate on a few tickets for an Arsenal match.
But you think in time it can come good?
Well, let's see. I mean, ultimately, I'm a Labour Party member, but I'm also open-minded to know that in government it's going to be challenging, and they've got 5 years to try and prove it. I don't think we should judge them after 10 weeks.
You know, it's not ideal, is it? But then again, they weren't left an ideal inheritance by the last government, and they've just got to get on and deal with it, and that's part of being in government.
There's no shortage of enthusiasm at this conference, but cuts to winter fuel payments and controversy over donations to ministers means the euphoria some felt in July has gone.
Can you still sense that hope here today, or is the honeymoon over, do you think?
I think I'm still sensing hope. You know, it has been a bit of a faltering start, but as I say, you know, we've got a legislative agenda that is going to make things so much better for the people of this country.
There are more than 20,000 people at this conference. Some of them will remember the Blair years well. Some will never have seen Labour in power before. I'm off to find out what the delegates here think of the first 2 months of this new government.
We were here last year. We're back again in a different mode. And we had to queue up to come in. Never seen that before. One time you just walk in.
Do you know there's a lot of negativity, but I think we need to give Keir a chance. Just give him a chance, and I think he'll come right.
At the party shop, Labour members are still buying the message.
I would like to see a bit more positivity to encourage the investment that we're trying to get, but I think it's going really well.
The promise of change swept Labour into power this summer, but everyone here knows if they want to stay in power, people outside this conference will need to feel that change soon. Harry Horton, News at 10, Liverpool.